Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we've got a little bit of a different setup. Normally I am facing the window and I wanted to try and get my lights in the background. So different setup today, but I'm excited to kind of see what this looks like. Today I'm so excited to be filming a how I edit my Instagram photos video, and I will also tell you some of my favorite editing apps that I like to use to edit my photos. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Kristen. Please consider subscribing to my channel for some college and lifestyle content. I'm gonna be doing a whole series on how I edit. And so the next video, no idea when that's going to come out, but it should be in the near future, is going to be how I edit my videos on Premiere Pro specifically. I have the Adobe trial for Premiere Pro, and so that's going to be running out soon, and I wanted to film that before I graduate and lose Premiere Pro, because then I'm going to be buying Final Cut and I can do another how I edit on Final Cut in a few months. So if you want to see that video, consider subscribing and sticking around for that. But I'm going to be diving into this video and showing you how I edit some of my own photos. All right, we're just going to get started, and I'm going to pull up Lightroom. So Lightroom is my app of choice. This is what I use the most to edit my photos. And so I'm just going to go into Lightroom. I organize all my photos in little folders or libraries so that I can go back to them and access them when I need to. I also like to do similar edits for a collection. So for my Paris one here, you can see that it had similar vibes across all of my photos. I had this like whitish theme going on, and so all of my other photos really brought out natural colors and the oranges in the background and the tones, but then it was still like pretty neutral. I didn't want it to be too saturated. So this first photo I'm gonna be editing is kind of different. It's kind of got like darker colors, which I really liked for this one. So this photo is after the edits, and if you hold down, it'll show you the before. So you can see that I really brought out the greens in this photo and made them more of a dark green, and I guess I added the contrast to make it stand out more. So I'm going to show you how I did this. So I'm going to reset the photo to what it was when I originally opened it. So you can see along the bottom that Lightroom has all these different features. I forgot to mention that Lightroom is free. The one on your desktop is not free, but on your mobile, they make it free. So anybody can get this. It doesn't take up too much room or anything, depending on how many photos you add. But so the first thing that I do is I'm gonna go to my presets tab. You can see all my different presets that I have. And so this is my little trick here that you should buy or create your own presets. I have done a little bit of both. Some of these presets you'll notice here are from My Life as Ava. She did her own preset pack that I purchased, and so I use those a lot because they're very natural and they just work for the types of photos that I take. I have created some of these, and I also purchased some off of Etsy, which is a really cheap and easy option. Usually they're about $5 for 4 presets, and you can pick what they are. You can go on Etsy and browse. They'll have a bunch of different options, but I highly recommend buying them because it just helps with the rest of your edit. It kind of like sets a foreground for what the rest of the edit's gonna look like, and you can adjust it based on your photo and what you want it to look like. But it's really cheap to buy presets on Etsy. They're not as good as maybe buying them from your favorite content creator, but it still gets you that baseline coloring so that you can then adjust it and change it how you like. So I'm gonna be using some of Ava's presets, her Clean Edits preset, and one of my favorite ones is Clean Edits 10. And so you can immediately tell when I add this preset that you're bringing out those greens and getting that kind of natural color. Once I add the preset, I'm gonna go and start it light and make my way across, and I'm just gonna adjust this based on what the photo is. So for this particular photo, the exposure is already pretty good, so I'm actually gonna turn it down just a little bit and add in some contrast, because when you have these kind of colors, I feel like contrast makes you stand out a little bit more. Highlights, as you can tell, are going to adjust the whites in your photo, and I kind of want the whites to stand out a little bit more so that it's not lost in the shadows and the blacks of the photo, because then if you look at shadows here, you're basically changing the entire photo. Like bringing it all the way up kind of brings you back to the starting point. So I'm gonna turn the shadows down just a little bit. Whites again, whites in your photo, you're kind of just gonna adjust the whites and blacks based on what you think looks the best. And then once you've kind of got it where you like, we're gonna move on to color. And so for this particular photo, I could bring up sorry, what's it called? I could bring up the temperature if I really wanted to and make it a little bit more warm, I guess, because if you bring it down, you kind of got this like cold vibe. I'm gonna bring it up just a little bit just to kind of give it some warmth. And then for tint, I'm gonna bring it a little bit towards the purples just because there's already so much green in the photo, as you can tell. I'll only turn up the vibrance a tiny bit because I'm not a big fan of saturation and how like a super saturated photo looks. So I'm not even gonna touch the saturation more than it already has been in this photo. Then you're gonna go to effects, and I like to raise the texture just a little bit just so that it looks more of like a natural photo and so it's not too softened when you go to post it. And then I'm gonna turn the clarity up just a bit to add some more dimension. I really like this dehaze thing. It kind of just darkens your photo a little bit and adds to the contrast, so I like to do that. For vignette, I like to always do a little bit of vignette just because it brings your subject into focus, if that makes any sense. I don't know how to describe that, but sometimes I like to do like the whitened vignette, but a dark vignette makes your subject pop a bit better. I don't really know how to describe that. I will not turn up the grain on my photos because it makes my photos look so bad, especially when you post them to Instagram. Instagram already makes your photos a little bit less quality than when you took them, and so I don't even like to touch the grain unless I'm purposely trying to get that effect. Then when you go into detail, you're gonna turn the sharpening up. Again, it's gonna make your photo look a little bit more textured. I turn up the noise reduction a bit to smoothen out the photo. It kind of smoothens all your edits together. Smoothens a word? It smooths your smoothens. It smooths your photo together. Smoothens. I'm gonna use that. It smoothens your photo. I kind of don't like how my shadows look in this photo, and so I'm turning them down because otherwise I feel like there's not enough contrast in this photo. So I'm gonna do the same with the blacks. And then because I did that, I'm gonna turn up the exposure just a little bit so that I don't fade into the background. Okay, I'm deciding that I don't really like the temperature. Nah, I guess it's fine. I'll turn it down a little bit. That's the thing, your photos are always gonna be a little bit different based on the photo because every photo is different and there's so many different ways you can edit a photo, it's crazy. And like the amount of times I'll go through and just fidget with this and mess around with it, it's crazy. I will edit a photo for an hour just because I'm having fun with it. All right, so here's our final photo and you can see the before and the after. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I really like how it's a bit more warm even though the background's cold. But once I finish this, I'm just going to export to camera roll. It's gonna render for me. Lightroom maintains the quality in your photos unlike some other editing apps that I've found. And then there she is in my camera roll and I'm all done with that photo. Little side note here, if you do come up with an edit that you really like, if you create it on your own or you mess around with another one and it's just like exactly how you want it, you can create your own preset in Lightroom by pressing the 3 dots at the top, and then you just press create preset and it'll save it for the next time because it makes edits so much easier to just throw on a preset and go versus sitting there for hours trying to adjust it exactly how you got it the last time. All right, photo number 2 is this photo that was taken of me over the summer, and it's similar to my Paris library where I kind of brought out the whites but still the oranges in my skin tone. So this is the after the edits and this is the before. So you can notice a huge difference in this photo. Yeah, it honestly just makes the entire photo much better than the original one. I'm gonna go ahead and reset this to that original opening. Okay, so we're gonna go into presets, and this preset that I used was called LA Rooftop. I'm gonna try and find this on Etsy because this one I bought off Etsy, but I'm not really sure if I can find it again, so I'm gonna try. But anyway, I'm clicking LA Rooftop, and as you can tell, that looks awful. I would not post that. That looks bad. But so a lot of presets overexpose photos, and so watch what happens when you go to light and you turn down the exposure. Boom. Boom. Look at that. It was just overexposed and needed some help. Which you'll find with a lot of presets that this is the case. You're gonna have to turn down the exposure or turn down the contrast. Something is making your photo weird because it worked on someone else's photo but not your own. All right, so that already looks pretty decent. This is a pretty lucky scenario where you can just turn down the exposure and it looks pretty good, but I'm gonna do a little bit of edits anyway just to make it exactly how I would edit my photos. Like I said, presets are more of a start. So I'm gonna raise the contrast just a little bit just to bring out some of the colors. I'm probably gonna keep the highlights pretty low just because there's so much white in this photo. And then I'm gonna turn down the shadows a bit to add to that contrast. Some people like that effect where you turn down the shadows a lot and it kind of gives this like cool, older, vintage vibe. I personally like to keep the shadows relatively in the middle, a little bit above, just because I don't know, I don't like one extreme or another. Then in color, I don't really want to touch this. This is pretty, touching your white balance is a tricky thing. It's really hard to get your white balance exactly where it needs to be so that the whites in your photo look poppin'. There is a white balance feature that Lightroom will let you just press on the whites like this and it'll automatically do it for you. That looks fine, but I kind of want it to be a little bit warmer and a little bit more on the purpley tint side. So we're gonna leave it as is and not mess with it. We're not gonna mess with the saturation or vibrance. I might actually turn down the vibrance just a little bit. And then similar things and effects that I did to the last one, I'm gonna turn up the texture clarity. This one I'm gonna turn the dehaze down a little bit because it already has enough of it. No grain, we're not touching the grain. The sharpening is fine, and I'm gonna turn up the noise reduction just a little bit to soften it. And here you go. That's the final photo, and you're just gonna export her. So again, this is the before, this is the after. Basically this preset though just turned up the warm colors in the photo a lot and added to the saturation. So in the colors, you can go to mix, and this is kind of where you get really funky with your photo. So in this case, the reds are already down enough. You can tell that now it kind of looks like I have lipstick on because I turned the reds down, but you can change the hue. So now I've got like really pink lips. If I went to orange, which is roughly where your skin tone is gonna be, you can turn up the luminance and it'll make you look more or less tan. You don't wanna get too crazy with this though, because you don't wanna make you look like you have a bad fake tan. You can also play with the hues and you can look like an alien if you really want. And then a little trick that I like to do is in the yellow, you're gonna turn down the saturation as much as you'd like, because otherwise the photo is gonna look like this or like this. And to get that white in the photo, you don't want that. So you're gonna turn the yellows down in saturation and sometimes up in the luminance. But yeah, there's my final photo. The color's looking great to me. So I'm just gonna export. Oh, one more side. You can make your greens like that teal color that everybody likes, wherever it kind of looks like you're on vacation, or you can turn them absolutely down, make it look more rustic. But that's how you would change the color of your greens, and some people use that in like those orange and blue edits. So that's what you would do if you want that look. But yeah, this photo's looking pretty good. Pretty happy with her. Okay, and our final photo today is this photo taken of me in Versailles in Paris. And this was taken of me 2 summers ago when I went abroad. I had the time of my life taking these photos, and everybody would ask me how I was editing my photos because they were so blue and they looked crazy. You can see back on my Instagram, like they were so blue and they were so pretty. So this was the filter that I was using basically the entire summer. This one I bought off Etsy as well. It was really cheap because they're kind of crappier, but I'm able to fix them, and so I'm gonna show you how I usually fix them. So this is the after, and this was the before. So a very plain photo, not that great, but with the preset, it just brings out these really, really pretty colors that went so well with the Versailles Palace. So I'm gonna show you exactly what I did to edit this photo. All right, so first we're gonna reset to all adjustments. So before the edit, go back to our presets folder, and this time I am in this travel folder that I had, and the filter that I was using is called Morocco. And I use this basically all summer, but as you can tell, when I first put it on, it doesn't really look that great. Kind of like how the other one did, where it was overexposed, but this one's gonna need a little bit more work, especially with this preset, because like I said, these presets were really cheap and I really bought them just for the colors that they would bring out, but then everything else I kind of have to edit. So first we're gonna go to light, we're gonna turn the exposure down again, pretty decent amount because it's still overexposed. Then we're gonna turn our contrast up because otherwise I'm not gonna pop in this photo. We're gonna turn our highlights down because this is kind of what makes the photo got all the different textures in it. We're gonna leave our shadows up, and we're actually gonna turn the blacks up too, because I want this photo to be a bit more bright and airy. And then I'm gonna just turn the whites down just a little bit, just so that they kind of aren't super exposed. All right, then we're going to our color. And this I'm going to bring down the warmth just a tiny bit, just because it makes some of the colors in here just not look right. So we're going to bring down the warmth, and we're going to turn the tint a little bit more towards the purple. I'm going to turn the vibrance up on this one because I was going for that popped somewhat saturated look when I was abroad, but you can see here that the vibrance is up and the saturation's down because the vibrance really brings out the colors in the photo, whereas the saturation I feel like just overdoes it. I don't know, I don't really exactly know the difference between the two. I just know that the vibrance is a bit more subtle. Then when you go to effects, I'm gonna once again turn the texture up and add to all the texture that's going on. We're gonna turn the clarity down just a tiny bit. Actually, I don't even know if that went down. I think it's pretty much fine there. The dehaze is gonna go up a little bit and the vignette is gonna go down just to have that slight border across your photo. Again, I'm not gonna touch the grains. I'm gonna go to detail, turn down the sharpening because it's a little bit crazy right now, and turn up the noise reduction, and everything else looks pretty good. I'm kind of happy with this. So I could go to color and I could go to mix and turn the yellows down even more like that, so that there's basically barely any yellow in this photo. And then I could go to orange and I'm gonna turn the orange up just a little bit to make my skin look brighter. And then I'm gonna turn the saturation up a little bit just to make it look more sun-kissed. So I'm gonna take the greens and turn those up to kind of have that tealish color, but not too much because you don't want it to look too fake. And then in the blue, because that's really what's making this photo pop, I'm gonna turn the luminance up because the sky looks a little crazy. And I'm gonna keep the saturation roughly where it is. I think that looks fine there. Maybe down a little bit. And then in this case, like I could make these hues all different colors. Like that looks really cool to make it more of a teal. Honestly, the purple looks like very fantasy. I kind of like that. But I like this to be a little bit more natural. So I'm gonna probably keep it roughly about where it was. There's also a teal color in this mixer. This is kind of dealing with the sky a little bit more, you can tell. And I'm gonna turn that down because there's already a lot of blue coming from the other blues in the photo. And I'm gonna turn the luminance up just a little bit. And you can see from the preset that I added that there were things that were already set in place. And that's kind of the point of the presets, that it puts some things in place for you so that you don't have to do all the work. But yeah, this is that photo. This is what it looks like before and after. And so I'm very happy with that. I don't even know if I posted this one. I might have put this one on Facebook for my family. But so that is how I get all of my photos that got this blue pop and no yellow background, so that it's like very white and natural. Next, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite editing apps. And so obviously Lightroom is my #1. That is the one that I use the absolute most. Almost all of my editing is done in there, but I also really like to use Afterlight. Afterlight is actually what I used before I started using Lightroom, and so it's a little bit more of a basic editing app. So in Afterlight, I'm just gonna upload. All right, I've got this picture of me and Kona. I did a different edit on this on my Instagram, but I'm gonna use this photo for Afterlight to show you how it works, similar to Lightroom. You can change the brightness, which is basically what the exposure is from Lightroom. You can also change the contrast, which this needs more of because it's on the beach. But what I like about Afterlight is that they have these pre-saved presets where they're kind of, it's similar to VSCO, but like this one kind of gives me like this beachy retro vibe, which I really like. And this app actually allows you to do some of the cool light leaks that I like to do on some of my photos, so I will put photos in here to do that. This one already, you can tell, has that like blue orange theme that a lot of people like in their photos. Honestly, I would go with this one if I bought that one, this one called Woods. But anyways, they have this little filter down here where you can press color shift, and this kind of gives like this like cool retro vibe that I've done before. You can add light, and so this is where these light leaks come in. So that kind of also makes it look like it was taken on a disposable, even if it wasn't. They have dust filters that you can add, and this also looks kind of cool. Just like a lot of like fun edits you can do on your photos to make them just a little bit more interesting if you want to get creative. I also mentioned VSCO. I will use VSCO a good amount of times if I'm looking for a filter that I've used in the past. That is how I edit my Instagram photos. So thank you guys so much for checking this video out. And if you want to go follow me on Instagram, I'm going to link my Instagram below. But that is all that I have for you guys today. So thank you so much for clicking on this video. Don't forget to leave a like on your way out, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.